Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Modding. Do you notice anything different? That's right, I got a haircut. But also, I changed out the buttons on my Anbernic RG351V. These are custom made buttons by Sakura Retro Modding. And I recently showed off buttons made by this same creator for my RG351P. So today I'm going to show you how to swap out these buttons to add a little bit of color and spice to your RG351V. On top of that, I also changed out the battery on this device. It turns out that the battery for the ODROID Go Super fits perfectly in the RG351V and will improve your battery life by at least an hour, maybe even 2 hours. So today's video is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to do a button mod as well as battery mod. And along the way, I'll try to make sure that you don't break your device when you do this. So you're not going to need a lot of tools for this. You need your device, the buttons and the battery, some masking tape, and then a Phillips screwdriver, and then a Torx T6 screwdriver. Although these units have been known to have T5 or T7 screws in it, so it's better just to have a Torx set. I'll leave a link to one in the video description below. To get started, just go ahead and remove those 6 screws on the back. And then you're going to want to use some of that masking tape to cover up the buttons on the side. Make sure you don't cover up the seam, just make sure you have it on the front side of the device. And do that for both sides. The reason we're doing this is to make sure these buttons don't fall out when we take the device apart, because they're a pain in the butt to put back. Go ahead and remove your SD cards, keep them nice and safe, and then just use your thumbnail to go around the edge of the device to undo all the tiny little clips that are holding it in place. If you don't have a good sized thumbnail, you can use a plastic spudger. Now there are 3 different cables holding the 2 halves of this device together. It's kind of hard to show them here on camera, but I'll do the best I can. The first one here is going to be your battery cable. It's going to have a white clip at the edge of it. You just want to unhook it here. It's pretty easy, you just got to pull it out. Next is going to be the Wi-Fi antenna. It's also on the same side. You're going to want to flip this open with your thumbnail. And then finally there's a controller ribbon cable. This one's pretty easy. All you have to do is unlatch it on the back side and then pull it out. Okay, so here's the battery, and here's the battery cable here. This is the Wi-Fi antenna cable here on the left side. It's attached to a little Wi-Fi antenna on the left. And then finally, here is the controller ribbon cable. Now, in order to access the buttons, we need to take out the PCB, or the control board of the device itself. There are 2 things we need to take out so that we can remove this. First is going to be the analog stick ribbon cable, and then we're also going to need to remove the display ribbon cable. And there are 6 Phillips screws holding the PCB together. They're all in the bottom half of the device. So I'm going to swap out my screwdriver here, and then let's remove these ribbon cables. Each of these have a little latch, so you just need to unlatch it and then pull them free. Be very careful with the display ribbon cable. After that, remove the 6 Phillips screws from the bottom of the device. Make sure your tape is firmly secured on the sides, and then just lift the PCB up from the bottom. And again, be careful with that display ribbon cable. And there you go, we have removed the PCB. I would recommend you check the front of the PCB here and make sure none of those membranes were stuck to the front side. If they are, just go ahead and put them back to where they belong. And there you go, this is the control board for the device. Now replacing the buttons is pretty easy. You just have to remove the membrane covering the buttons themselves, and then you basically just push them out with your finger and then replace them. And the nice thing about these replacement buttons is they don't have any letters on them, which means that it doesn't matter how you rotate it, it'll still be fine. So once you got the hang of it, just go ahead and remove the buttons and replace them with the new ones. And I gotta be honest, I had to Google the coloring of these buttons because I'm not used to them. In the US, we didn't have these colored buttons for the Super Nintendo. We just had dark purple and light purple. Once you're good to go ahead and put the membrane back. Make sure you push it in nice and firm so it's secure. And let's check out the front. Looks good to me, matches what I found on Google. Okay, let's reattach the PCB. First thing you want to do is slide through that display ribbon cable, and then just gently push the ribbon cable back to where it belongs. Just kind of coax it in. Take your time. The last thing you want to do is mess this part up. Before I go any further, I'm just going to attach the PCB to the device itself. So let's put in those 6 screws again. Now we'll do the analog stick ribbon cable. Same thing here, just coax it in and then snap it shut. Alright, let's move on to the battery part of this. I ordered mine from Ameridroid, one of my favorite distributors of ODROID Go Super and ODROID Go Advance accessories. So this is the battery here. They look to be about the same size. You can see the Anbernic one is 3900 milliamp hours, whereas the ODROID Go Super one is 4000 milliamp hours. The battery is secured by a sticky piece of tape, so all you have to do is just pry it off from the shell. Now let's weigh these real quick. So 61 grams for the Anbernic battery. And let's try the other one. 66 grams. So it's about a 5 gram difference. I think it's totally worth it. Okay, when you put the new battery in, you want to make sure the wiring is to the left. An easy way to remember that is to make sure you can see the text. And just like with the ODROID Go Advance batteries that I used for the RG351V, even though these batteries are not much bigger, heck, the one in the 351P is actually smaller than the stock battery. But these batteries are much higher quality and they have much better performance. Okay, once we have the battery in place, let's go ahead and put all the cables back together. Let's start with the Wi-Fi antenna cable. This one you just want to line up perfectly with the little hole and then snap it into place. This is what it'll look like when it's done. Let's do the battery cable too. For this one, you just want to slide it firmly into its place. And then here's the controller ribbon cable. I'm trying my best to get it on camera, but it's kind of hard. Just know that you slide it in like the other ones and then snap it shut. Okay, once you have everything together, all you have to do is snap the device shut. At this point, you're just leveraging the clips that are attached around the edges of the device. Alright, time to screw everything together one final time. But wait, a cat just jumped into my lap. Let's do a cat break real quick. So for those of you who never met my cat, this is Chicken. Chicken, this is everyone. She is 13 years old. We've had her almost her entire life. One note while we're taking a break here, if you have a cat, I would not have the cat around while you have the device open. While the device is closed, yeah, it's fine, but you don't want any cat hair inside your device. Okay, I think that's enough cat break. Let's finish the work. Next step is to continue screwing everything back together. Once you're done, you can go ahead and remove that masking tape. And here's the finished product. These buttons are a little bit more convex and rounded than the original buttons, and they also have a grittier feel to them. They're a little bit rougher on the fingers. I kind of like it though. I feel like my fingers are never going to slip off the buttons. So overall weight once we finished our mods, 229 grams. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that this is a little bit heavier than a PS4 controller. I think that's a pretty good weight. Okay, let's reinsert our SD cards. Boot up ArcOS or your firmware of choice. And let's try out a game you've probably never heard of and I've never shown off on this channel. So my overall impressions of these buttons is that I love the coloring of them, but the feel of them does take a little bit of time to get used to. They don't have that slick texture that you might be used to with something like a Super Nintendo, and they're much rougher than they are in something like a Powkiddy device or even the Anbernic devices. And personally, I like the little bit of rough texture to them, but I think it comes down to personal preference as well. Okay, so here we are with the end result. Brand new buttons, and a battery that's going to give you at least an hour and maybe even 2 hours more of playtime. And by far, my favorite thing about this is how much the colors make the device pop. I think this is a really fitting color scheme for the gray model itself, but I think it might look good in the smoke gray model as well. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this something you think is worth upgrading? I should mention these buttons only cost about $6.50, so it's not a big loss if you order them and don't like them yourself. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming!